So this weekend, and Khamzat claimed that he cut 46 pounds to make weight and then subsequently lost the fight against Sean Strickland. In this, I just want to go over a couple of points. One, did he cut that much? Is this a normal amount of cut? Two, was that detrimental to his performance, leading Sean Strickland to be able to push the pace of the fight and therefore beat him? And three, the realities of weight cutting and how we should really go about it in combat sport. What I'm not going to talk about in this video is the reasons behind he did such a big cut. I'm not going to talk about him negatively because the size of the cut or anything like that. I can assume that somebody at that level of the UFC has very capable people around them, nutritionists and people managing his cut. The UFC PI is phenomenal. It does fantastic work. It's available for all fighters. I have seen the work firsthand. It is great. I can only assume that there was a reason that they wanted him to come in like that. Maybe to keep his overall weight higher. I don't know how he responds to weight cuts. He may have been able to do big cuts and then put the weight back on quickly and therefore be a lot bigger on fight night, which obviously would help a grappling-based game. What I will say is that I doubt he cut 46 pounds or 40 pounds. That is a tremendous amount of weight. That is like a life-threatening amount of weight. Typically, when I work with fighters and a lot of my peers and things like that, and some great coaches out there, generally say 10 to 12% is what we are cutting fight week. In terms of a weight cut, a water cut, through dehydration, sort of manipulating what's in the gut, through fiber intake, food intake, things like that, and then fully rehydrating and putting and fully fueling, putting all that back in over the space of 24 hours between weigh-in and fight night. I think he may have lost that total amount over his camp, which is quite likely. He may have done 20 odd pounds in terms of diet, etc., and then, cut the rest. Again, I'm not going to talk about why he would have done that because honestly, I don't know. What I will say is that doing big cuts that you adequately can't recover from will negatively impact performance. There's tons of data out there on this. There's been studies that are done on this. And we see it and I've seen it time and time again over 18 years, that the bigger you dig, the deeper you dig that ditch when you're cutting requires you to fill it in more, i.e. a higher recovery demand. Some people recover better than others, absolutely. Some people can redline it a little bit more than others, absolutely. And that he may be one of those people. But doing it in the least harsh way possible will only ever see more positive outcomes on the other end in terms of performance. You want it to be as easiest and stress-free process as possible. You want it to be as mild a process as possible. You want guys to be feeling like absolute animals coming out the other end of the process after the refuel as possible. And if they're still feeling absolutely smashed from the cut, they're just not going to perform, even mentally. If you can make them recover physically, it's the mental side of it. Can they move past that cut? What you'll sometimes see happening is a lot of fighters end up looking at the weight cut themselves as the match, as the fight. They forget, they do that bit, and as soon as they've made weight, they forget all about it. And they forget about the refueling process and things like that. It's just one part of the puzzle. It's like a tick box that you should be accomplishing on the way to the fight as part of a professional. So, in this day and age, why do we do it? Why are fighters still making weight? The negatives of it are out there. Everyone talks about it all the time. So why do we do it? The truth of the matter is, it's a necessarily evil as part of the sport. Unless sports are going to move to having it like the IBJJF, which is Jiu-Jitsu Federation, where you literally weigh in, go to the bullpen, and then fight without time to refuel, rehydrate, etc., then it's never changing from this. People will always manipulate it, try and coming in bigger than what they're weighing. So we must just deal with it. And while it's never ever going to be 100% safe practice, It's important to, say that there is an element of risk involved in it, and a serious element. People have died from bad weight cuts. Many people have ongoing conditions from bad weight cuts. Like, it has really, really negatively affected, and huge amounts of people have lost fights from bad weight cuts. It can be done by mitigating that risk, by doing it properly, by making sure that you are cutting an appropriate amount of weight, that you know how to cut weight, like in baths, that you're handling all the variables, such as your food, the water that you've got going in, the temperature of the baths that you're going in, and not random saunas, that you're not doing stupid stuff like shadow boxing in a sweatsuit in a sauna. I've seen that multiple times. I've seen someone drag an exercise bike into a sauna in an attempt to cut weight. That you're not doing these things, and then that you have an adequate refuel and rehydration process on the other end. You know how much fluid you're supposed to be in. You are managing electrolyte balance. You are using appropriate foods to put into your gut so you'll know you will handle it and use it properly. And then monitoring weight and the data and the outcomes over the next 24 hours after making weight. So you ensure that you're A, the fighter is safe, and B, that they're going to be able to perform as safely as possible and to the best of their ability on the other end. Now, I'm not saying Khamzat didn't do all of these things. He very, very much likely did. We'll never know because we're not part of the camp. We don't know. I don't know who's working with, so again, we're not going to comment on it. But what I will say is, if you are looking to be making weight, if you are looking to, you know, do weight cuts and things like that, make sure that you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, either use a professional in regards to a nutritionist that does that, has experience in the area, not just some random PT. No hate to PTs, but they generally don't have experience in weight cuts. Or you are very, very, like, your coach has a lot of experience in doing it. That they're educated on it. They've done courses, they've done even just self-education, stuff like that. They'll know what's going on. That you, after the weigh-in, that you rehydrate properly, that you refuel properly, that you make sure that your health and your safety is taken care of during these things. You are not doing, the weight cuts in the bath on your own. The amount of people have fallen, gotten out of baths is insane because they become lightheaded. All this kind of stuff. Make sure that you've got some of it. Secondly, make sure that you are only cutting in fight week 10%, like at the max. So you absolutely know what you're doing, or unless you're working with a coach and you've done it a good few times. 8 to 10%. Try and get closer to 8 than you do 10. And make sure that you're not doing anything really stupid, like taking last minute fights so you have to do massive weight cuts, and giving yourself proper time to be able to do it. Good way to do it is take the total amount that you need to lose. Let's say, for argument's sake, it's 10 kilos. Okay. And you weigh, 80 kilos as you start. So you need to get down to 7 kilos. You're going to should be able to be dieting most of that off in an adequate period of time. You can probably do it over about 6 weeks quite adequately. Don't be doing anything mad in the last minute. Ultimately, weight cutting is a complex topic. It's highly individual, that how people respond to certain things, how people respond to fuel, like food going in for fuel after weigh-ins, how people handle the suffering side of it, how people can do bigger weight cuts versus longer diets. This is all like versus male, female, sport type, weigh-in type. Is it same day before, but it's the time's a lot less. So you might weigh in on the night and be fighting mid-afternoon versus on the night. Some organizations, like, you need to fight multiple times in tournaments over a few days, so you need to make weight multiple times. Again, do it for the sport. If you're confused by any of it, if you need somebody pointing you the right way, if you just want somebody to overlook what you're doing, I've got a free nutrition evaluation that's in the description below. Click the link, fill it in. I'll do you a completely individualized bespoke video answering your questions that I'll send back to you. There's no paywall. You don't have to pay for extra answers or anything like that. It's literally just there to help. Again, if you want to ask any direct questions in the comments, please do. But most prefer to use the form. But that's excellent. If anybody needs to know anything, let me know.